Hi, welcome to Ben and Barry on Football. My name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings. My compadre in crime is.
My name is Ben Dickerson. I am not a criminal.
Okay, if you say so. I know a few other people that said the same thing, as a matter of fact. Nixon. Anyway.
I am not a crook.
That's true.
There's a difference.
He did say that. All right. So we are at that point in the season. We've completed the AFC, NFC championships. We now have the contestants for Super Bowl 53, right?
That is correct.
Which will be held in Atlanta. Those contestants are the New England Patriots and the Los Angeles Rams. They're still in Los Angeles, right? Okay.
So far.
I'm not sure who's home in this game. It's a little interesting because it's in a neutral field, but that gets you into the flip and all of that.
Well, it would be determined by who's the higher seed.
Okay, and that would be the Rams, more likely.
I believe that would be the Rams.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And so what we're going to do that's a little bit different, because normally when we do the matchup show, we look at it first, again, we base everything on the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, which includes categories like the points for, the scoring, points against, defense, turnover differential, big stat, and we put all that together. We call it a bias and a bias plus. But normally we're talking about the upcoming games. Here we're going to take a look back at your championship games, maybe a little bit more detail. And we don't normally do this because normally the stats that I just mentioned is pretty much what we use. But now we've got a lot more team and individual stats. And we like to look back and kind of see if there's any correlation. You got to remember, Sterling Net Point Power Rankings is to some degree experimental because I'm the only one that does it. And I'm collecting the history and we're looking at it on an ongoing basis and how it can be applied in other areas of the game. But, the very fundamental is that it's the difference between points for and points against. So, for example, let's get ready to get right into what we talked about last week on the Ben and Barry show. The matchup show for championship weekend. So, first game, Rams Saints. Now, your net point, your NP stands for net points, your TOD stands for turnover differential. And again, the bias is the difference between the two teams in terms of net points and in terms of turnover differential. And then we take those two numbers and we combine them for a bias plus score. Now, when you look at turnovers, for example, or if you look at net points, and you see that there's only a 17 net point difference between two teams, and you look back and realize that if you average that out over, this is actually including the division game, so that would be actually 18 games on an average per game basis. That's less than a point.
Right.
That's how close they are relative to net points. And turnover differential, again, that went in the Rams' favor. And it was plus 19. So when you added all that together, and again, if you average that score out over 18 games, it's practically even, for all intents and purposes. And that's how the game kind of came down, right? I mean, they fought it out. It was overtime. Was it overtime? Did they get to overtime?
Yeah.
It was overtime on the other game for sure.
No, this game wasn't overtime.
Right.
The bottom line for me is, and as you know, if you've been following us, I try to pick the games week after week. Sometimes I go with the bias, sometimes I don't. But that's just to throw a little drama into the fact that where we're actually tracking is how well the bias works for us as far as, or works for itself for that matter.
Because it is what it is.
Right.
It's completely based on, their actual scores. So we don't really have the ability to put anything personal in it.
Right. And we always say it's not really predictive, but usually when we get down to it, like around playoff time, right before that and into the first round of the wild card round, you begin to see that the bias has been correct as far as the strength of those top teams, the teams going into the playoffs, and now to the point where we've worked our way all the way down to the conference champions. And when I say that, if we just look at the facts, now we did a top 5 show every week. Last week was the last week for the top 5 show, unless we're going to do a top 2 show for the Super Bowl, but that remains to be seen. We had 4 teams left. And when we go back now and look at that, the 2 teams that made it to the Super Bowl were the Rams and the Patriots, who were sitting at number 1 and number 2 at the top 4 in total net points. If we go down the other categories, the Rams were number 1 in points for. They happen to be number 3 in points against, but they were number 2 in turnover differential. So they were top 2 in 3 of the 4 categories. The Patriots, number 2 in net points. They happen to be number 4 in points for, but they were number 1 in points against and number 1 in turnover differential.
Stood out to me last week when I looked at that, and it's like, this is the season of offense.
Right.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Or is it? Because they number 1, and by a decent margin, and you see who number 4 is.
In points against.
Yes.
Well, it was the team that of the top 5 net points overall for most of the season had the lowest ranked points against total.
Amazing. And again, my support or my reason for my choice for league MVP was definitely Patrick Mahomes. And I tweeted this out. Not sure if I did it on Sterling Net Point Power Rankings or on Ben and Barry, probably both. That my reasoning was because he overcame the largest deficit of any other quarterback in order to be in that top 1 or 2 in net points. And it was because of his number 1 ranking in point scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the largest differential, or the largest negative number to overcome, with his team ranking, I think, about 24th on defense.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talked about the game, we were looking at what they did in the division championships as far as the Chiefs defense, where they seem to have played a much, better overall defensive game. We thought, wow, okay, they can pressure. Now they're covering on the back end. Yeah. Is this, are they ready to turn this thing around and get this thing right? Because
it would be the perfect time.
This would be the time to do it. And they seem to have either reverted to form, or the Patriots reverted them to form.
Well, I mean, what was the final score?
What was the final score?
Yeah.
Oh, it went into overtime, so they only won by the 6. But they, when you look at the amount of offense that they, and we're talking here about the Rams, right? That game.
No, you're talking about Chiefs.
We're talking about the Chiefs. Okay, so we moved over. I didn't change that up here for people to see. Let's let them see. Patriots, Chiefs. That's how close that game was in terms of the bias plus. If way even closer than the previous game. But the final. What was the final score? I got everything on here, but the final score.
It was 37-31 Patriots.
37-31 Patriots. Thank you.
So when we say reverted back, they pretty much played the way they've been playing over the season.
That's what I meant.
The team that was better. Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying. The team that played better defense over the course of the season, however, was kind of lacking. And
You're talking about
the Patriots
defense?
Yeah, they gave up 31 points.
That's true. They gave up 31 points, but they gave up 31 points to the number one offense in the league. And this is an offense that would put 40 on a number of different teams.
Okay.
So, and again, Patrick Mahomes, when we looked at
they averaged 30 points a game. I'm pretty sure.
So they
30, 31, 32. That was their average per game over the course of the season.
The confidence, he put 24 points up in the final quarter of the game. Okay, so they had to come back. He had to do what he had to do. But I did notice that in the numbers. And as far as efficiency is concerned, let me go back to this one. Tom Brady had 46 attempts. He only had 31. His rating was 117. Brady's was 77. So I mean, I understand why the Chief fans are like, change the overtime rule. Change the overtime rule. I understand the thought, but it's their defense. It's just you should be just pointing. Your defense has not been championship caliber. They showed up last week, played a really good game. Try to give them credit for what they actually did. But on up against a Belichick / Brady / was it Josh McDaniels, scenario. Brady just he knew what to do to manipulate the offense, and you couldn't get to
him. 16 completions out of 31 attempts is what? Close to 50%?
Close to 32 would be exact. 50.
Okay. 30 completions out of 46 attempts. You're the mathematician. Where does that get you?
30 out of 46?
Yeah.
30, I don't know.
It's better.
Well, and if you're looking at percentage, but in terms of his overall rating, it's not better.
And his overall rating is that way because he threw 3 touchdown passes.
Well, his rating is still 77. You talking about Mahomes?
Mahomes' rating is 117. He threw 3 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Brady only threw 1 touchdown pass.
Right.
But his percentage is better.
Oh, okay. That might be true.
He played better.
Well, his percentage was better. If you remember now, Patrick Mahomes, the one thing that the Patriots did really well was keep him on the bench. That they did with sustained drives.
For half the game, they kept him. He scored. You just said he scored 20-some points in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's what he had to do.
So they're lucky they lost. They're lucky they won the coin toss in overtime.
You talking about the Patriots are lucky?
The Patriots won the coin toss in overtime. They're lucky.
To some degree.
To a big degree.
The flip of the coin.
To a big degree.
They didn't let that guy back on the field. And that's why those people, that's what I'm saying. I empathize with them, but I don't really have a problem with the overtime rules. It is what it is. If your defense, got exposed like that, they just got exposed like that's why they wound up, firing the defensive coordinator. They got a new guy.
Let's think about this. If teams got to the point where the game was over in regulation and it was a tie, and they had to have a winner, and somebody had to take the ball first, how could you fairly do it, determine who gets the ball first, without a coin flip? Can you think of any other way, just off the top of your head, just anything?
Well, you could
who had the better offense,
fingers,
who had the better rock, paper, scissors, right. And even after you did that, you'd still have to choose, I want the ball or I don't. Now,
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
right. I can't remember if anybody ever deferred in overtime. I doubt it, but I don't know that for sure. Because some teams have supreme confidence in their defense. Obviously, the Chiefs don't. Why would they? They've been hovering around the bottom for the entire season.
Why are you talking about deferring in overtime? I'm not sure why you're talking about that.
No. I said, how do you choose who gets the ball first in overtime? If you don't, flip a coin.
Oh,
and you said rock, paper, scissors, this, that, the other.
Right.
But even after you do that, whoever wins that doesn't necessarily get the ball. You have to choose it. What you're flipping the coin for is to find out who gets the choice.
Okay.
Right?
I'm good with that.
You go with that. Okay. So, and that's what took me to, now that you have the choice, I would assume since it's overtime and the team that scores the first touchdown can win the game. You're betting on your offense that you're going to score a touchdown, hoping that at the least you would get a field goal and have a chance to stop the other team. Therefore, why would you ever defer? I understand why you would defer in an entire game. You got 4 quarters. Why would you ever defer?
I'm not sure why you're asking that question.
I'm just asking a question. We're just rapping. Would you ever? Can you think of any instance why?
That's the one time you take the ball because you want the ball to score, So you're gonna everybody. It's in regulation time. It's now a little different. And we've had that conversation about deferring and stuff like that. And in actuality, it's funny because, as I told you, as a Madden guy, I defer. I lead with my defense. That's that aggressive defense.
Yeah, but you're betting on yourself.
Exactly. So, and the team that I have. But long story short, that's what I generally do. The Chiefs, however, led with their defense against Brady
in the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And you think that was a bad choice?
Well, it didn't work for him. It didn't work for him because Brady ate up like 8 to 9 minutes of that first quarter on the drive, and then they scored.
And yeah, but the Chiefs came out, and because we were talking about length of drives, Chiefs came out in the second half when they got the ball first, and they went down with a 7+ minute drive.
The thing about wanting the ball in the second half is because you now have an extra half of information and analysis and game planning that you have, and that gives you the advantage on the other side.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion. That's why I do it.
I'm not saying it's wrong.
That's why I do it.
But you do it in Madden. So again, you're betting on yourself. You're not betting on 53 people. 53 individuals.
Well, you got to know your team for you. That's who you're betting on.
That too.
But long story short, what I'm saying is that's the reason that I do it, and I think that's the reason why it's been adopted a lot. But and so when you say Patrick Mahomes came in and he did as well as he did, that doesn't really surprise me. That's why they do that,
and it doesn't surprise them either. But I don't think that's why they deferred.
When you put your defense out, the challenge is, and you look, and early in the game you're down because your defense got scored on, and a lot of the clock has been used, or they've got scored on twice. You know what I mean? Now you're coming back in the second half. You really need that intel because now you got to figure out how to dig out the hole, catch it up, make it a new game, and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a gamble when you put your defense out there. You better know what defense you got, and that almost was a precursor to what happened in overtime. You looked like the same type of drive, maybe a little more dramatic because they used Gronk a little bit more. But, they do what they do. So the thing about the Patriots, and we talked about this, and I'll go into a little bit more in terms of in terms of quarterbacks, when you have a quarterback who can really walk up to the line of scrimmage, and look at what the defense is either showing or what he thinks they're going to actually do versus what they're showing, because you know that they're not always showing what, but whatever they do, where your leverage is just from the formations, and things of that nature, and the matchup that you can dictate by your movement,
Speaking of the defense,
I'm talking about the offense. This
Okay.
you know, when Brady walks up to the line of scrimmage, whatever the defense is doing, he sees the leverage against that defense,
Right.
you know, and makes that move to make the adjustments at the line of scrimmage. And I think when we talk about those quarterbacks, the two quarterbacks are both probably are very good at it, but it's no doubt that I think that Brady is, if Goff is a brown belt, Brady's a black belt, and walking up to the line of scrimmage, finding that leverage, making that adjustment call, and going to the best opportunity, as quickly.
And you praised Mahomes for what he was able to do at the line of scrimmage versus the Colts. And that's all wonderful. But again, we got to remember, Brady's the master, okay? Brady's been doing this for almost 20 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Mahomes, I mean, it's kudos to him for being as good as he is and being and doing as well as he did show us this season, and particularly what he did at the line of scrimmage against the Colts. However, this is his first year starting. He's still got a lot to learn, but he's come a long way in a short period of time. That's great. I want to get back to something that we were talking about before, though. We talked about deferring. Obviously, we're pretty sure that deferring in overtime is not the right thing to do, but then you brought up deferring at all in the beginning of the game, okay? In my opinion, deferring in the beginning of the game is when you're basically betting on your defense, because not only is football an offensive and defensive game, but field position has a whole lot to do with it. So if you're betting on your defense that they can hold the team to 3 or turn it over on downs, you now have won the field possession battle in the very first series of the game. You want to take hold of the game, choke hold if you can, as early as possible.
Man, it's a beautiful thing.
So,
I'm listening to you.
So we're looking at that. Now, that's not to go away from what you said, because that makes real sense.
Of going
yeah,
out
no,
there.
that makes real sense. But that's something you do going into the game, whether you get the ball first or not, because the length of the first half and the changing over at the end of the quarters kind of dictates itself to giving your coaching staff a chance to. They all got friggin' things on the sideline, laptops and tablets and shit. They're analyzing and picking up info from from the freaking kickoff. Oh, he kicked it a little bit to the left and about 5 yards deep. That stuff's recorded because they changed the kickoff rules now. So every little thing is important. So gathering intel, that's going to happen regardless of whether you get the ball first or not. But if you're gambling on your defense and you think they can hold the other team to 3 or possibly stop them on downs, if in fact they do the ultimate and stop them on downs, you force a punt, you get a decent run back. Now you have taken over field position. Now you're not starting at the 20 or the 25. You might be starting at the 30 or the 35. You've won the field position battle so far, and now you're moving on. Unless, of course, you turn it over something, but that we won't talk about that. We know there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts and all that stuff. Then, if you accomplish that and you go down and score first because your defense did their job on the first series, now you have the fact that you're going to get the ball back first in the second half to add on top of that, which gives you all the momentum. So, again, that's how I look at it.
We look at it the same way then.
That's how, well, yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying the intel thing.
I'm loving what you're saying.
Yeah, the intel thing is going to happen.
We're right,
regardless.
We're correlating there, you know.
But when you're trying to dictate the flow of the game and field position, and
so are you trying to minimize the intel thing, saying that's going to happen one way or the other? Is that you're trying to say?
No,
don't get
I'm not trying to minimize it.
You said it's going to happen,
but I am. It is.
I'm not arguing, but
okay,
it's important.
Okay, right. But I'm not going to determine the coin toss on it, because it's going to happen anyway.
You're not going to determine the coin toss?
I'm not going to determine whether I ask for the ball or I defer, because I think I'm going to get more intel by deferring.
Well, it's not about more. It's about type of intel, because
I've already worked on intel for the entire week.
No, I'm not saying you're not, but I'm just saying, the offense gets to see what the defense is doing and in the game during the actual game, what they actually do. And so when you come out in the second half, well, but if you come out in the second half and you now have the ball, you have the opportunity to act on that information, and you have and first before the other team can act on their information. So,
but if you defer, you give them the ball first,
and right, you kick off to them. Right.
Okay.
So all I'm saying is,
so all your early intel is on their offense.
Well, your early intel is on their total team, but all I'm saying
it's on their offense. You kick the ball off to them.
There's pre-game intel and there's in-game intel.
We're talking about in-game intel.
So, like for example, in the game, all of a sudden
I'm going to give you the ball first, so that when I get the ball, I can watch your defense. I don't get that.
I can watch your defense? No, I have watched your defense. I've seen what you're doing in the game.
What is it that I need to do that's going to help me in the second half when I get the ball?
Depends on what the defense was doing.
No, I don't mean specifics. You said gather intel. What is it that I'm not going to get whether I have the ball first or not? In other words,
the opportunity to activate this offensively. That's all. That's what you're getting.
Right.
The opportunity to work on it offensively.
That's right. And you're going to get the ball first in the second half, right?
Right.
Okay, so why do I want to give them the ball first?
So that I can get it first in the second half.
No, their offense is on the field.
No, I want it in the second half. That's why I'm doing it. Because of all the great things that you said I can do with that intel. And I want it in the second half. If I'm even at the end of the first half, and now they're kicking off to me, advantage me.
Right.
Let's not beat this up too much, because I think that, people, you can see that, you might have a slightly different way of looking at it, but we kind of both came to the benefits of doing it. And you said, then you're betting on your defense. And I'm like, yeah, defensively, I got dogs. I'm betting on them. And that's how I look at it.
Not only that,
playing the game,
but I want to optimize.
Dogs coming at you.
If I'm going to optimize my chances of winning the game, there's certain things that I want to control as early as possible. And one of those is field position, because if I have field position, that increases my opportunities to score.
Okay. I'm not arguing. I can't argue that.
Okay.
Anyway, so we looked at the Pats game a little bit. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention about that game, Mr. Dickerson?
No, not really. Kudos to Tony Romo for the fine job that he did as a color commentator. Being football guys, we're not going to get too bent out of shape about how he said, I see this, they're going to do this, and then they did it, and everybody went, oh my God. They were calling him Nostradamus Romo or something, Nostradamus Romo or something. We're not going to get too bent out of shape about that. But he does offer something that some other color commentators don't, or don't attempt to, or can't do. And for that, I got to give him props.
And what's that he does that other ones can't do?
To be able to diagnose a play.
Okay.
Whether it be a run, a pass, he got it down to a science, to the point where during the overtime, he was actually telling you who was going to catch the ball and where they were going to catch it. But again, he's an NFL quarterback. He's reading the defense up there in the booth, just like Brady is. He's looking at the formation that they're in, and he's looking at the defense, and he's like, I see what they're doing. They're trying to leverage this. They're trying to leverage that. They're in the two deep zone. He's going to hit Edelman in the middle. Boom. They come out. He says, okay, they're going to chip with Gronk. They're going to chip with the back. They're going to hit Edelman in the middle again, because that's what they're giving him. Boom. They did it again. It was 2 plays in a row. Then he comes out, and he lined Gronk up wide. He's like, Gronk's out wide. Oh, he's getting the ball. What else is he out there? He ain't blocking for no running plays. He's out there. He's not pass blocking. He's out there. They're not going to waste him. Let's look at the matchup. How big is Gronk? 6'5"? How big is Eric Berry? 6'2"? I'll give him 6'3". Who's their best D-back? Who do they been begging? Oh, God, when we get Eric Berry back, right? So they had the best matchup they could have. He mossed him.
And Brady put it up there so he could.
And Romo knew that he would because he's Brady. So why not take that shot? This is what I got. I got a matchup I like. I got him isolated.
Yeah.
Why would he not do
That's
that?
why
And when they did that, they came out of the 2 deep zone, and I think they went straight man. So they got everything they wanted. And he explained it play by play right when it happened. Most color commentators don't do that. We all watch football on television. Sometimes you pay attention to what they're saying, sometimes you don't. I'm telling you, if Romo's doing a game, that's worth listening to.
All right.
I like it.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I like like when he mentioned that Gronk was out wide. Sometimes when you're sitting, you're looking at it on the screen, you're trying to see who's who and
who's where.
And then he focused you over there. And as soon as he did, you go, ooh,
Yeah. Now, other guys will do that. They'll say, okay, Antonio Brown's down at the bottom of your screen. They'll put a little circle around him or something like that. They're kind of doing what he's doing because they're knowing because of this down and this distance and this situation and the score, this is probably what they're going to do. They just don't get as fine as Romo did. And I just, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well-informed guy, quarterback, and he thinks like a quarterback, so he can sync up with guys like Brady and kind of really know what's going on. And again, he did a great job. I'm with you there. Let's move on real quick. Make a quick announcement here. Some information, kind of more miscellaneous. This is going to be called the Riff Show, so we're going to riff a little bit on this. Just want to give you some information that came out from the NFL. They've announced the 2019 London and Mexico City games. So if you remember, they had a problem with the Mexico field, and
it's all chopped up.
And they brought it back here. But what's going to happen? They plan to return in 2019 and announce that the Chiefs and Chargers will play one of their 2 2019 games on the other side of the border.
What's the other game? The other Mexico City game, you said there's 2. Did they tell you which what the other game was?
Let's see. Let me finish going through.
You said Chiefs and Chargers, right?
The Chiefs and the Chargers.
Okay, the second game's got to be Raiders and somebody.
4 other games will take place in London.
We don't have that, do we?
And the league announced those matchups as well. The Panthers will face the Buccaneers. The Bears will face the Raiders. The Bengals will face the Rams. And the Texans will tangle with the Jaguars.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, date times and in the case of London game, sites have not been announced. 2 UK games are expected to be played at Wembley, and the other 2 are slated for Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium. Tottenham was supposed to host a game in 2018, but it was moved to Wembley because the new building wasn't ready.
Soccer stadiums.
The Bucks, Rams, Jaguars, and Raiders will be designated as home teams in the London game, while the Chargers will be the home team in the Mexico.
So they're sending the Raiders to London. So if they send them to London, I doubt if they'll have one of the Mexico games. But I know that they've sent the Raiders to Mexico a few years in the past. So for some reason, they don't have what that second game is going to be. But that's cool. Chiefs Chargers is a good game. I don't know how great a place Mexico City is for vacationing for people that might want to go down there. It ain't no Cancun, I'll tell you that. But, they're trying to expand the league, and I don't know if they'll ever have teams in Mexico. However, I think Mexican fans are a little bit more into American football than the people in London. Even if they're thinking that Europe is probably, because they already tested Europe. They had NFL Europe, remember?
They have to make sure
it wasn't great.
A really big space in the wall so the bus can get.
So the buses can get through, because they use them really big buses.
They have to jet them right over the wall, and
well, I mean, they can catapult them. There's a lot of different things they can do.
Get them guys.
My big question is, once they get over there, they're gonna let them come back, because
that's the question.
They might separate them like they separated the families, separate the teams.
Hey, look.
Your offense can come over. Your defense has to wait a while.
Has to wait a while.
As a matter of fact, you can all come over, but we're going to detain the defense, especially if you lost the game. Your defense will be detained while your offense is allowed to go home.
You never know.
Okay, those jokes they're funny, but they're really not funny.
Because it's scary. It's scary stuff. It's scary stuff. Anyhow, let's move on to the Pro Bowl and talk about it. But before we get into our feelings about the Pro Bowl, just want to cover the difference between the Pro Bowl and the All Pros.
Yeah, the All Pro is a team that's selected by, I believe, the writers. And it's not really hard to do, but they'll pick one player at each offensive and defensive position, starting positions, as the best player in the NFL. So there's no AFC, NFC. It's the top guy, regardless of conference.
Top like 22 plus special teams.
Exactly.
Maybe 25.
Yeah.
So
overall.
You are the man
Kick
at your
returner,
position.
punt returner, and then that one special team guy.
So it's not like two quarterbacks. It's whoever the quarterback is, that's the quarterback.
Right. They have a first team and a second team.
Okay.
They do have a first team and a second team. So if you're second team All Pro, that's pretty cool too.
Okay.
But let's face it, first team All Pro is the best of the best.
No doubt. No doubt. No doubt. So that is the All Pro list.
Right.
As opposed to the Pro Bowl.
Right. The Pro Bowl is an actual game. It's like the NBA All-Star game. This is the NFL All-Star game. And as such, the people who play in the game are voted on by the fans and the players themselves. And I believe that the coaching staffs have the last say in filling in reserves, guys who have to take the place of guys who've been selected but are playing in the Super Bowl because obviously they're not going to play, and guys who are injured.
Let me quickly throw out the names for the All-Stars, All-Pro. For the All-Pro.
For All-Pro.
For All-Pro.
Yeah, just give us the starting.
Yes.
Because it's tremendous. If you really think about this, if this was the actual team.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I look at that and I go,
yeah,
can't beat them.
Kind of there's a all-star type team in Madden like that.
Yeah.
Like everybody's rated 99.
Yeah.
You know, so offense, quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, running back, Todd Gurley, LA Rams, flex, Tyreek Hill, Kansas City Chiefs, tight end, Travis Kelce, Chiefs, wide receivers, Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints, and DeAndre Hopkins, Houston Texans. Left tackle, David Bakhtiari, Green Bay Packers. Right tackle, Mitchell Schwartz, Chiefs. Left guard, Quentin Nelson, Colts. Right guard, Zach Martin, Dallas Cowboys. Center, Jason Kelce, Philadelphia Eagles. Edge rushers, J.J. Watt from Houston Texans, and Khalil Mack from the Chicago Bears.
Those are your ends.
Those are your crashing.
Now, who's your tackles?
Crashing. Oh, my goodness. Interior linemen, Aaron Donald and Fletcher Cox.
What quarterback is going to break the huddle and come out and look at that and be like, oh, man.
Holy mackerel.
Come on.
Jimmy Christmas. Jeez. And the other thing I think that I like, and I don't know this about this.
What's that?
In the Pro Bowl, you're not going to have people who are in the Super Bowl.
Right.
But in the All Pro, you should, right?
Well, if anybody, you can.
Oh, yeah, because you got Aaron Donald. He's in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
One guy.
That's one. Well, I know it ain't a whole bunch of them.
That's what you're thinking. Like, how come there's no Super Bowl dudes in this on this team,
guys?
Well, there's theories out there about that.
All right, linebackers: Luke Kuechly, Carolina Panthers; Bobby Wagner, Seattle Seahawks; Darius Leonard, Colts; That's a busy
Nice
group
squad.
right there.
Very busy.
That's a
Very
busy
quick.
group right there.
Very quick.
Luke
Kuechly can
Kuechly,
diagnose your
diagnose like
offense.
Tom Brady.
Yes, sir. Can still
on the
hit.
other side.
And Bobby Wagner. We don't even want to talk about Bobby Wagner. Stop it.
Bobby still got a little boom. It might
Yes,
not be
sir.
the boom from the Legion of
Yes,
Boom,
sir.
but this little boom still popping with
Yep.
Bobby there.
Yep.
No doubt about it, man. And cornerbacks, Kyle Fuller, Chicago Bears,
Mm-hmm.
Stephon Gilmore, New England Patriots.
Had a really good season on what we considered a middle of the road defense.
Yeah. Well, they showed up in terms of the rankings of the other
He's big time.
Final Four. They was the #1 defense.
You know, when they let Malcolm Butler go, everybody's like, what's going on? This guy stepped right in.
Now we got some charges. Safeties, Eddie Jackson, Chicago Bears. Derwin James. Los Angeles Chargers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And defensive back Desmond King, Los Angeles Chargers.
So that's basically
the
his
Chargers defense all year.
Yeah, he's basically that last guy is like kind of like the flex on offense. He's like the nickel corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Special teams, place kicker, Justin Tucker, Baltimore Ravens.
Real good
Punter,
here.
Michael Dixon, Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, I don't track punters, so I'll take your word for it on that guy.
Hey, look, he's on the list here. Kick returner, Andre Roberts, New York Jets.
I didn't watch a lot of Jets games. You know what? I think he returned a couple balls for touchdowns.
I think he
Couple
might have
kicks.
too. We have to go back and
chances
check that
are,
out.
if we go back and look at some stats that people don't usually look at, like net return yards, he's probably up there.
Right. And again, with the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, we rank things by points.
Mhm.
Many times the NFL is ranking by yardage. So
Correct, but in something like that, you
have
kind of have to.
Yeah, you have to. You know, except for this guy, punt returner, Tariq Cohen, Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
You might be able to get some points out of that.
He's dangerous, and
Out of that
but I
deal.
bet you his net return yards is nice. He's always a threat to break it. You know, he might have a couple 50-yard returns there, so even if he didn't score, he set them up nicely for their offense. So
Now they actually have, when you get beyond place, kicker, punter, kick return, punt return, there's another guy here in his name. He's under the category of special teamer.
right, that means he does all the other stuff. He's probably the gunner on the punt team, run down, make the tackle, first one down there. He probably, when his team punts, he's probably the gunner, or he's the guy in the middle just behind the line, like where Taysom Hill plays. So he can take the direct snap, run the wildcat, that kind of thing. He probably can return. What's his name?
His name is Adrian Phillips. LA Chargers.
I think I've seen him return some punts. I don't know who their punt returner is, but it might be him.
Okay.
Adrian Phillips. Isn't he the starting safety?
Well, we have to look that up. Get our producer, if we have one.
They're taking a break. I think they went for coffee.
Is that what they went
Yeah,
for?
that's cool. But
Been
that's
about
cool.
3 years, hasn't it?
That's all right. The bottom line is he does all the miscellaneous stuff, usually going down on kickoffs and punts, blocking when his team receives kickoff and punts. That would be the special teams designation. And they have guys that stand out. If you remember back in the day, if you've been around long enough, the guy from the Buffalo Bills kind of made that a real
Okay.
Don Beebe.
Don Beebe.
Yeah, remember that name?
Back.
Yeah, he kind of made that a special thing, being a special teams guy.
So that's the all pros. Now the Pro Bowl is the actual game.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk a little bit about the Pro Bowl. And the reason why you're going to see in 1 second when I say, Ben, you're like the football of all football guys. Okay?
I love football.
You're more football than I am. I think.
People don't understand how much I love football.
Or in a different way, because you actually go out on the field on nasty days, and I'm sitting in here playing Madden. So I'm giving you the edge. The bias goes to you on that. But Do you watch the Pro Bowl?
Dude, I watched NFL Europe when it was on. I watched the XFL when it was on. Okay?
Yeah, we talked about some of those.
If
games.
I'm walking down the street and I see some kids playing on the playground throwing a ball, I stop and watch. But I can't watch the Pro Bowl. I can't watch the Pro Bowl. It's such a letdown. It's such a letdown. Some of those all-pro guys that we mentioned are going to be in that game. But what's the incentive? They're not paying them that much money, relatively, speaking to how much some of these guys make.
Well, hold on.
Nobody wants to get injured. You have a money stat?
Yeah, but I don't know why. This is a 2014. In 2014, they made $53,000.
It probably hasn't gone up.
That was for the winning team in 26. But I think I saw something. So it's
that's a freaking game check for some guys.
Oh, no doubt about it. That's a whole nother point. But your point is just watching the game itself.
I can't, man. It bothers me. I'm not going to say I won't put it on, but I'm not going to rush home. Oh, I got to and see the opening kickoff.
Now, this is Ben and Barry on football. Yeah. We're talking about football, and we love football, especially at the pro tackle level, and we can't watch the Pro Bowl.
It hurts me. It hurts me.
So I'm right with you.
If I go to a little league game, like say I go up and watch Oakland Wildcats, the little dudes, the what's the smallest team? The 55s?
Like the 55s, yeah.
These kids are like 6, 7 years old.
Yeah, my kid came up through the 55s.
I'm mesmerized.
Sit there and watch them.
Because I'm like, they're all the same size.
They're like little weeble wobble.
Yeah, yet the coaches have gone to the trouble to pick out who should be the running back and who should be the left tackle.
That's right.
Like they look the same. They're the same size.
Because they're all within that weight range.
They might, but there's some reason why he's the running back and he's the left tackle. That fascinates me. Mm-hmm. And I want to watch and see what kind of potential does this kid? Does this little kid have any wiggle? Because it's got to be natural. He's only 5 or 6 years old. Okay.
Crystal, my wife's great nephew, I believe. Mm-hmm. This is like his second or third year, and he's already been to one of those championships in Florida, and he's like the running back.
Yeah.
And they give him the ball, and it's like the blocking is more like the pushing and the moving in one direction than it is really blocking.
Right.
But he's gone. He's out of there.
He's already got good vision, and he's probably got a little wiggle. And
he knows he knows where he's supposed to get to, the end zone.
Right.
He knows that.
Right. And he's probably got some speed. So that, for starters, that's all you need. My thing is, there's something to look at. There's something to watch for. When I watch the Pro Bowl, I think I know what I'm watching for. But then when I don't get it, it's
well, the bottom line,
it hurts me because I know I can see the guy's not playing hard. If he played like that in a regular season game, I'd be screaming at the television, what's wrong with him?
Well, he couldn't because in a vacuum, in other words, in isolation, as opposed to the way they normally play in the game, if he played like that, he'd probably be injured in 1 or 2 plays.
You're absolutely right, which tells me now that the defense, these cats ain't going to be really hitting.
No. And so this is the deal.
It's like you don't want to run too hard, and they don't want to hit too hard, but they have to bring you down. You just can't let dudes run and score touchdowns. It's not like the NBA All-Star game where we can play 3 quarters and it's layup and dunk city, but everything is still relatively even, and then we clamp down. You can't do that in football.
So the problem that has arisen is that no one wants to get injured.
That's the bottom line. If you ask me, that's number one.
As far as the players, and you mentioned before that the game check for that is like 1% of some of them guys' salary. Now, I did find out some other things that I found were interesting. Mm-hmm. Some guys actually have Pro Bowl
incentives in their contract.
Yeah. Okay.
That's making it.
That's making
Don't mean you got to play hard.
Don't mean you got to play hard.
That's right.
And so So when it comes to money, there's some things going on. We're going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about this again in next week's show, or the week sometime, maybe in subsequent shows, as we look at the Pro Bowl, because I have an idea as to how to make the Pro Bowl much more of an attraction than what it is right now. But long story short, I literally pulled up a game, and now you got to remember the game up until 2010, I believe it is, was played after the Super Bowl.
Right.
It was at around that time, 2010, 2011, that they changed over and put it in between the conference championships and the Super Bowl.
Right.
And so, you now have the most elite players, who are the players generally in the Super Bowl, not participating at all because they have the Super Bowl to play. So
did you say the most elite? Because that's not true.
Well, they're generally, you will find a large number of the players that are in the Super Bowl, okay, they would be vying for spots on the Pro Bowl. I mean, if you're looking at
sometimes.
Well, I'm not saying nothing's 100%, but I'm saying let's look at Tom Brady. Would Tom Brady be in the Pro Bowl if he wasn't?
Probably.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's one guy.
Well,
again, you know what I'm saying? And my point is, people that are in the Super Bowl, if it was after, number one, they still wouldn't play because it's right after the Super Bowl. So they're like, screw that. I'm already hurt. They all beg off injury. A lot of them did. That's part of the reason why they moved it, because they wouldn't play. I can't remember Pro Bowl Montana played in. How many Super Bowls he win? 4, 5? He didn't play in no daggone Pro Bowls after that. They moved it, so now they can't play in it. But my thing is, if you go down the rosters, you will find that a lot of those guys, more than will not be Pro Bowl selections.
Well, if you are a Pro Bowl selection and you opt out, then it's next man up. But again, so many. There's when you're looking at a 40-man roster and you've got two whole teams that are in the Super Bowl, you know that you're going to have a certain number of those guys who are top players in the league. The Aaron Donalds of the world. So you got a number of those guys who would at least be normally in the Pro Bowl. But long story short, the injuries are the issue. And no one wants to risk that, the monetary payback. As a matter of fact, there was one guy, and I forget his name. We'll talk about him. But he, he got injured in the Pro Bowl, missed a good portion of the season. I think they said he came back in like game 8 or something. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'll never play in a Pro Bowl again. No, and again, I pulled one up just to watch it, and I could only maybe take about 4 or 5 minutes because the tack, like you said, it's like the kids playing in the playground at lunchtime. They can't really play tackle, so they kind of grab each other and pull each other. Yeah, because they don't want to tear up their clothes and they don't want to fall down on the cement. It's absolutely. So they do the best they can. Pull and let me tell you one thing that was kind of funny though in the video. The announcers were talking, and they were talking. This was the season. Matter of fact, Alex Smith was playing because he had such a great year, right? 49er Alex Smith. No, Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Alex Smith? Okay, Smith. So it wasn't that long ago. And they were talking about this new guy, Patrick Mahomes, and whether Alex Smith was going to be there. And the guy was saying, if they trade... So this is last year. Okay. If they trade Alex Smith, right? Right. It's going to be a big mistake because Alex Smith can take you to and win a Super Bowl. Who said that? A commentator said that? Yeah. As opposed to Mahomes. Well, no. Forget as opposed to Mahomes, because at that point, nobody knew what he could do. Exactly. That's so true. The funny statement is that somebody could definitively say Alex Smith could take you to a Super Bowl. But he had a record-breaking Alex Smith year. I know what they were thinking. He was throwing deep. And they were like, Alex Smith, the ultimate short-range game manager, all of a sudden going deep. It's almost like when we saw the Kansas City Chiefs defense play good, we was like, they're ready.
Right.
but
But on top of that,
not quite.
you got to remember the Super Bowl that the Niners went to, that Cat played in, Alex Smith was on fire.
Yeah, he
that
was on
season
fire.
before he got hurt.
Again, I'm a Niner fan.
And there's a real good chance that Alex Smith would have taken that team to the Super Bowl.
Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. You know, and it's so interesting when you look at Alex Smith that he got replaced by Colin Kaepernick, who was ultra talented, you know, and changed the game on the NFL, kind of like Lamar Jackson's doing right now, where they're like, we don't know how fast people need to be to even compete with this guy at this point. We got to figure all of that out. But then to go to Kansas City and then get shipped off again for this other new talent guy who is now going to be the most valuable player, rookie, offensive, you know, all pro team, first team, you know what I mean? And then he gets his leg broken. Matter of fact, did you see the picture of him? They have a picture. No. He went to a basketball game and he had this contraption coming all the way up his leg, almost to the knee. And you know how you see those things where people have brain injuries and they have these screws holding things in place like
he's
that.
Got
he
that
things coming out all his
he's got all kinds of problems.
Oh man, again, you know, get well soon. All the best, Alex Smith. But
but that whole situation there, where he could go from commentators talking about he could take them to the Super Bowl to them getting rid of him and putting all their apples in Mahomes' basket, that's Andy Reid. Andy Reid saw something. That's a big gamble.
Or the enemy.
It's a big gamble. Or, well, let's say their front office. We'll give everybody a little piece of credit.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But
they saw something. And I mean, again, you go back with my Niners. You know, what did what's the name? He's coaching at
Chip. Well, we know
that wasn't Chip. No, he's having
Harbaugh.
That was Harbaugh seat.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and you had to give him that. But in any event, yeah, you're absolutely right. I just thought it was hilarious to hear a guy talk about, you know, you don't want to do that. You know, Alex is the man. I don't know about that guy, but that Mahomes guy. And when you hear
at the time,
after this past season, it just seems hilarious.
Kind of right, but yeah, that's funny to hear that after the season he's had. Now, of course, he's got to do it again and again and again and again. But that's Kansas City's banking on that. And if I had to bet money, I'd say he'll probably do it.
If they are able to maintain the level of offense that they have and actually improve their defense by even just getting them from 24th place up to about where the top 15 or so over the next year, that'd be a big move. And they would be very scary as a team. I can't imagine what their net points would be. You know, if he's able. Now, again, second year starter, we know what happens when the NFL gets film on you. You know, start focusing on you.
Yeah.
That's really where you start to see, you know, how good is this guy? Because once they kind of know you and you still beating up on them that means they just can't stop you, you know?
Yeah, and we'll find out. Obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but there's a real good chance that teams will have a better grasp on how to attack him defensively. But I don't think they'll be able to stop him. It's up to Andy to now do something that he never did with the doggone Eagles and get him another receiver. He cannot live off of Tyreek Hill like this for another whole season. Kelsey's great, but Kelsey's a tight end, and he's only going to do so much. And in certain situations, he's not going to be a viable option. So they need to get him another good receiver. They got a guy named Robinson. They got a guy named Connolly. They go week after week after week with between 0 and 3 targets. And they're winning. How are they doing that? And Sammy Watkins was hurt for 6 weeks. How'd they do it? They lived off Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, and Kelsey. That's a recipe for disaster if they go into next season the same way. I'm just saying.
He needs a few more.
At least one more. Okay. Well, he's got to get another running back.
Yeah.
Damian Williams has earned his spot. So you got to back him up, or somebody that's going to compete for starting job with him, and you got to get another viable receiver, somebody that can run different routes and get open and catch the ball. They don't have to be a superstar. Like Amari Cooper would fit in there perfectly. Dallas already got him, but you know what I mean? Somebody like that. He don't have to be top of the line. It don't have to be AB, but it's got to be somebody. They might get lucky and get somebody in draft. I don't know. But me, I'd be going free agent. I'd be looking for that. Andy, I'd be looking for T.O.
T.O.?
You know what I mean? Not the real T.O. A player that's going to do for you what T.O. did for you in Philadelphia. They were right here. They got T.O. They went, whoop, 1 year. 1 year.
Well, I have theories on why that happened, but long story short, I was going to ask you this. So you want another wideout? I'm thinking slot.
Oh, no, it doesn't have to be a wideout. I said receiver.
Another receiver.
I don't care where you put him.
Okay. There's a whole conversation.
Because Hill can play slot and wide.
There's a whole conversation today going on because Cole Beasley put out a tweet. Did you hear about this tweet?
I saw. I didn't read it. I was on the
something about how much he's being used, and he'd like to be used more, and that type of stuff. And so the conversation on one of the shows, the one with the guy that you don't like.
Which one? Who? Chip?
No.
I mean, Skip?
No, not Skip.
The show I don't like.
No, the guy that don't vote.
Jason Whitlock.
There you go. That show. And so he was saying that he thinks a lot of the smaller, quick, white slot receivers.
He actually said white.
Yeah.
I can't stand that dude.
He said,
okay, what did he say?
He said that they're undervalued, that they should be valued higher. He said they're actually undervalued.
So Golden Tate don't count. Aguilar don't count. Who's some?
Well, he just said that they should be valued higher because the kind of work that they do, especially on like third downs. Where they're your go-to guy.
You know what I'm talking about when I talk about this guy, though. There's always some underlying something in everything that he says. He always is bucking the trend. He's like, what's the guy that was on the radio? Howard Eskin. He loves to be hated.
Antagonistic.
Why are you going to say short? He probably said not so fast, white.
Right. And he said they're undervalued. They should be getting paid more than what they're getting because of the type of work that they do.
Now, if it wasn't like that, if it was a bunch of little short, quick black guys.
I'm not saying
and somebody said,
he
they should be valued more. They should make more money. He'd be like, why?
That was hilarious.
Why should I pay them more? If they were that good, they'd be out wide. I can hear him. I can't stand that dude, man.
Talk about flipping the switch. I was like, slowly I turn step by step, inch. But let me flip another switch. Now, I know this one's going to really flip your switch. First of all, when we looked at
Riff on Ben Day,
it's just a riff show. We talking
riff on Ben's pet peeves.
But you and I had these conversations.
All right, what we got?
And so we had, so this is actually sort of a dual thing because last week I talked about Brandon Cooks.
Yes.
Cooking them guys, right?
Yes.
So when I looked at his stats, Brandon Cook was targeted 8 times, caught the ball 7 times.
It's very good.
For 107 yards and a 15.3 yard average.
That's excellent.
With a long of 36. Now, he didn't get in, but he was cooking them guys.
That's great.
Now, this is the funny part. You and I had this conversation, and I told you that starting to sense some weakness in the deep ball for Drew Brees.
Okay.
And I think you were pretty vociferously thinking I was absolutely crazy. And so as I'm looking for Brandon Cooks, because, now you're talking about a guy who's played for 3 of the 4 teams that are going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And that's
yeah. amazing. And he was at the Saints.
That's correct.
And according to an article I read, one of his complaints about the Saints was the strength of Drew Brees' arm.
Okay.
Because as a guy whose job was to take it off the top, he didn't feel like Drew Brees was getting it or couldn't get it to him on a consistent basis.
Okay.
And that's kind of one of the reasons he wanted out. Now, this was a few years back, you know, when he was with the Saints. It's at least 2 or 3 years ago. But I just thought that was interesting that, you know, that guy, again, of that talent, that's why, you know, I kind of focused on him. And then in focusing on him, saw that article, which tied into our conversation about Drew Brees' arm. And apparently this has come up, and there's numerous articles being written about him. Most of them say that, you know, they see no evidence. And when they looked at it statistically, they felt like they didn't see any evidence.
Right.
But it was interesting that, again, Brandon Cooks, you know, and then he goes to the Patriots, and he is the deep threat, you know, and he goes to the Rams, and, you know, he is the deep threat. And he's good, you know, he's good. You give him, you throw the ball at him, you know, he's going to catch
Where
the
was he
ball.
first?
Saints, right?
With the Saints first, then he went to the Patriots, and then he went to the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I would say, number one, that's a player being a little self-serving who came to a team with what he saw as being a great quarterback, thought he was going to get a lot more passes than he got. But probably, and I'm sure I said this, and as I think back, I'm sure if I didn't say it to you, I said to somebody, when people say, oh, he's so fast, how come they don't throw the ball to him more? Route running. Number one, you're not getting open as often. And number two, throwing bombs is not really their thing. Now, he goes to the Patriots, becomes a better route runner. I would venture to guess, of course, I could be wrong, but there's ways to check things, that he caught more underneath balls with the Patriots than he did bombs. You want to talk about bombs, you want to look at Brady DeMoss. But you're talking about Brandon Cooks, he ran over the middle. Matter of fact, he got clocked in the Super Bowl running over the middle and got put out of the game. He's not a bomb guy. He can be. He does take the top off.
Bomb guy.
He not catching bombs, taking the top off for Edelman and them to run underneath him. And now Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp when he was healthy. Cooks wasn't getting the ball that much. Now he gets the ball more with the Rams than he did with the Saints, but there's reasons for it. One of them is not Brees' arm. That's what I say. He's a better route runner now. He's more dangerous on crossing routes. I watch the routes that guys, because, you know, since I'm coaching flag football, I like to look at route combinations and stuff like that. So I like to see who does what. Tall guys are good at this. Short guys are good at that. Fast guys are good at this. Guys that aren't so fast are good at that. Some guys just run great routes. They can run the whole tree, but they really run the curl really well. They really want to run a great comeback. Or they're a master at the short shoulder, back shoulder throw. Okay? I look at that kind of stuff. When I see guys getting 3 catches and 4 catches, I'm wondering, like, and you're supposed to be a dynamic guy, how come they're not throwing you the ball? If you're so dynamic, you should be open. If you're open, they should be getting you the ball. They're going to miss sometimes. Okay? But when they call plays, passing plays, they got a primary and they got a secondary. And when you got a primary, you look at him first. So if he's the primary because he's so doggone fast and they go to the secondary, that means he's not open. That's all I'm saying. So he thinks because he's fast, he should be the best receiver on the team. He should catch X number of passes. That's not always going to be the case.
Well, I didn't hear him say any of that. All I heard him say was, you know, that he questioned whether or not Drew could get the ball deep to him.
So he couldn't.
That was his
he's
job.
Saying every time he threw the ball to me and on deep routes, and it wasn't getting there.
That's what it kind of sounds to me.
I'd say that's not the case.
Well, okay. So that's why he left, and I just thought it was interesting. So we'll keep an eye on Mr. Breeze's arm.
He had to say something, throw shade on somebody else.
We know that quarterbacks will, at some particular point, begin to lose arm strength. You know, the thing with Manning at the end of his career was that they were like, we know he can't get it to the sideline like he used to. So we're going to make sure that we overplay that middle, because that sideline, we can leave a guy out there because that ball's going to come over here a little on the weak side, and we think our corners can handle that. We know that happened, you know, and Drew's not as big or strong as you know, Manning was. So,
is anything wrong with Jared Goff's arm?
I don't know. You know,
through 40 passes, completed 25. Breeze threw 40 passes, completed 26. Goff threw for 297. Breeze threw for 249. If anything, that's lacking.
That was
okay.
Not bad.
Goff's longest completion was 39 yards. Breeze's longest completion was 43.
Yeah, very close statistically, you know, and that's why I said we have to keep an eye on that, you know. So we'll see.
Keep an eye on it because he's 40.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
No, you're saying it already happened.
No, I didn't say it already happened.
You're telling me that people are saying it already happened. You're saying that
difference.
Sensing what you sense.
What
tells you? What
my
is
sense
it that you see?
The eyes. What I'm saying.
Your eyes. You see it.
Yeah. You know.
You see he has lost something on his long ball.
That's what I'm beginning to question. I want to see more. But
what do you want to see more? You want to see him throw the ball long more?
No, what I want to see is how he progresses over the next few seasons.
But you've already seen this decline.
Well, I've seen again. Yeah, I sent some passes that I really had to question, and I'm like, you know,
why? Because he was slightly underthrown. You counting the one in the Eagles game? You brought that up.
That might be one of them. That could be one of them.
Kidding me, man.
Yeah. That could be one of them.
You got it.
Because let's face it. You know,
everybody throws picks.
I'm not saying they don't. Brady threw 2. But, you know,
then why are we questioning his arm?
These are deep ball picks.
Why aren't we questioning Brady's arm?
Those are short picks. His picks was right in the red zone. I'm talking about deep throws.
That ball wasn't that deep.
And sometimes,
that ball wasn't that deep.
What
do you call deep? No, what do you call a deep throw? 40 yards plus?
Easy.
40 yards plus.
Yeah.
That's your marker.
Well,
you can change it. You can say, 45 plus. I'm asking you.
Actually, I would agree with 40 plus. Yeah.
40 plus?
I would,
okay.
Yeah, that's deep. That's pretty deep. Yeah. You know, that's pretty deep.
Right.
Now, that being said, again, when I looked at it, and I was just surprised, Brandon Cook, he did have that game. You know, he knows these offenses. We're not really going to get into the Super Bowl this week, Mr. Dickerson. We're going to hold some of that information. I mentioned where the games are going to be played. We talked about the all pros. Yep, the selection of the all pros. I did want to mention a little bit about the draft order and see if you had anything to say about that. So you're a Giants fan. I'm a Niners fan. The Cardinals look like they have the first pick. They were 3-13. My Niners are second at 4-12. Jets third at 4-12. Raiders fourth at 4-12. Buccaneers fifth at 5-11. And that 5-11 also goes to the Giants, who are 6th, and the Jaguars, who are 7th. Your Lions coming in at 8th. The Bills at 9th, the Broncos at 10th, and the Bengals at 11th. They're all 6-10. The Packers are 12th at 6-9-1. They got that tie. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 9 teams. So 13 is the Dolphins, 14th is the Falcons, 15th is Washington, 16th is the Panthers. The Browns coming in. How you like that? The Browns ain't first on the draft pick anymore. Go ahead, Browns 7-8-1. Vikings at 8-7-1. The Titans at 9-7. The Steelers 20th at 9-6-1. Thanks to the Browns, got that 1 in there. Seahawks 21st at 10-6. Again, 10-6 with the Ravens at 22nd. The Texans at 11-5, 23rd. The Raiders, apparently via the Bears, were 12-4. The Raiders got a 24th pick in there also. Eagles at 25th, 9-7. Colts 10-6. Now this gets a little weird here. How the Eagles at 9-7 are below the Ravens at 10. Oh yeah, I can see that. Okay, Colts 10-6 at 26. Raiders 27th, 10-6 via the Cowboys. Raiders are collecting those picks in that first round, ain't they? What they up to about 3 there?
3 or 4.
Yeah, Chargers at 12-4, Chiefs at 12-4. That's 28th and 29th. 30th is the Packers. That's another one in the first round for the Packers. They were also 12th. They also picked 12, and that rounds it up. They're 30th. So that's your draft order as of today, January, what's today, 23rd, something like that, 2019. So that's your draft order. All right. So we've gone through, we looked at last week's game. We talked about the Pro Bowl. Neither one of us liked the Pro Bowl. I'm going to be talking about a solution to the Pro Bowl because we want that. I mean, would you like to have a serious Pro Bowl game? Would you like to see, guys playing real football? Would you like that?
I think that would be nice. Yes.
Okay.
You going to figure that out for us?
I'm going to try to figure that out for you. Yes, I am. I'm going to put actually at least 2 or 3 brain cells moving in that direction over the next week.
It's going to take more than that if you really want to try to figure this out.
You seen my brain cells? No. Anyway.
I can't argue.
Ben and Barry on football. Any last words?
Go Noles.
Go Noles.